If you're a global leader, an investor, or a policymaker, you need to understand one thing very clearly. The world you planned for no longer exists. The Davos 2026 summit confirmed that we have entered a new era of global competition and risk. While the world was watching, the rules of the global game were quietly rewritten. The sheer scale of the event, with a record 65 heads of state and over 3,000 global leaders, wasn't a sign of unity. It was a clear signal of urgency. Everyone showed up because the stakes are unprecedented, making this less of a routine meeting and more of a crisis summit. The core message coming out of the summit is that we are witnessing one historic rupture, a fundamental break from the post-Cold War era of stability. This brings us to the central theme of the summit, the Great Rupture. Former central banker Mark Carney captured it perfectly when he said, "We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition." This distinction is crucial, as it calls for honesty about the world as it truly is. The first sign of this rupture is the fracturing of the transatlantic alliance, the very bedrock of the post-war economic order. When the IMF's Geeta Gopinath warns of, quote, a complete breakdown of trust, it signals a structural failure that undermines global stability. The second major sign is the weaponization of trade. Since 2019, we've seen a staggering 262% surge in government interventions, proving that trade is no longer just about efficiency. It has become a primary tool for achieving security and geopolitical leverage, fundamentally changing how global business must operate. The numbers coming out of this new reality are a warning siren, showing that the stakes are truly existential. Let's start with the human cost. A staggering 3.3 billion people, or 42% of the global population, now live in countries where debt interest payments exceed spending on health and education combined, trapping them in a cycle of instability. This instability is reflected in a major risk shift. For the first time ever, geoeconomic confrontation has overtaken extreme weather as the #1 global risk concern, showing where leaders' immediate fears now lie. And finally, we're seeing a reality check on AI. The conversation has moved beyond the hype to the hard question of ROI, as a widening technology divide threatens to leave many behind. As one executive put it, scaling AI feels hard because it requires redefining how we work, not just adopting a new tool. Given these existential stakes, leaders are no longer waiting for a global consensus. They are making new deals to survive in a fractured world. With global growth slowing and trade expansion at a historically weak 0.9%, nations are abandoning broad multilateralism for targeted strategic alliances. The most significant example is the EU-India Trade Pact, which many are calling the mother of all deals. This historic realignment creates the world's largest free trade market, uniting 2 billion people and serving as a powerful strategic counterweight to US-China polarization. This deal also signals the rise of middle powers, who are refusing to be forced into one camp or another. As Mark Carney noted, these powers recognize a new reality. If we're not at the table, we're on the menu. The key insight here is that the future will be defined by these agile, strategic coalitions, not a return to the old global order. So what is the path forward in this new environment? In a ruptured world, resilience is no longer about bouncing back. It's about building entirely new muscles. First is the need for radical dialogue. Engagement is no longer a diplomatic nicety. It is a survival tool for engaging with the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. Second, organizations must build geopolitical muscle. With only 20% of companies feeling prepared for this new era, the imperative is to build internal capacity and actively diversify supply chains. Finally, the future belongs to new coalitions. The era of global consensus is over, and the most effective alliances will be issue-based, led by rising middle powers like India, Indonesia, and Canada, who are actively shaping the new order. Understanding these shifts is the key to navigating the turbulent decade ahead.